Good morning and welcome to the Splash Live, Greater West Bloomfield's only local morning show, giving you exclusive access into people, businesses, and events in our community. We're bringing you this show live daily weekdays at 9:30 a.m. with your host, me, Maddie Muschin. Before we dive into today's show, every week we highlight someone in our Greater West Bloomfield community, an educator, student, business, or organization going above and beyond. If you would like to submit an entry for someone, you can scan the QR code on the screen and fill out the Google form with the person's name, their contact information, and reasons why you think they should be recognized here on the Splash Live for our person of the week. Now let's go check out what's going on in our Greater West Bloomfield community. The first event we want to look at is the West Bloomfield Township Public Library virtual events. They're hosting a ton of fun and educational events for residents of West Bloomfield in all age groups. Today they will have their book talk that is organized through the Friends of the Library program. In this book talk held today, they will look at the book The World According to Fannie Davis by the author Bridget M. Davis. For this event and all other virtual events at the library, you can register online at their website at wblib.org. Something else ongoing at the library is your ability to rent out those great literacy and tender topic kits to help your child with their literacy skills and learn ways to learn about tough topics that are happening in our community. You can rent these kits out by stopping into the library, or you can call the Youth Services Desk to reserve the kit of your choice. On Thursday, April 14th, you can join in the Easter egg hunt fun at Marshbank Park. West Bloomfield Parks and Rec is hosting their egg hunt where you can hunt for eggs and redeem them for cool treats and prizes. There will also be a meet and greet with the Easter Bunny, a petting farm, and a trackless train ride that you, your friends, and family can all enjoy. Registration for the egg hunt and the specific age group event can be done through the West Bloomfield Parks website, and make sure to bring your own Easter basket to carry all your prizes and eggs. The registration fees for this event is $7 per West Bloomfield resident child and $9 for all children who are not residents of West Bloomfield. The last event we want to look at is the Sylvan Lake Garden event. On Thursday, April 21st, the Sylvan Lake Garden Club invites you to an event of learning of how to use native Michigan plants to support the declining pollinator communities that create healthy yards, trails, and lakes, and as well as minimizing rain runoff and flooding. Led by Erica Kleitz, the Director of Oakland County Cooperative Invasive Species Management, it will be at Six Rivers Land Conservancy. There will be a social time and a presentation starting at 6:30, and those presentations will start at 7. This event will be held at the Sylvan Lake Community Center. If you have an event you would like us to feature here on the Splash Live, you can send us a message on our social media pages at Civic Center TV and on Facebook at Civic Center TV 15. Coming up, I'll be talking with Suzanne Levine, the Executive Director for the Greater West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce. But before that, last month, West Bloomfield High School had a very special visitor come to talk to their theater cast and crew for Big Fish. The students are putting on the spring musical later on in April. Bobby Steggert, who was in the original production of Big Fish on Broadway, came to speak to the students about the musical and what it means to them. Let's go check it out. West Bloomfield High School got a little taste of Broadway with an exciting visit from Bobby Steggert, who starred in Big Fish as one of the main characters, Will. The West Bloomfield High School students are set to put on the musical Big Fish in late April and have been rehearsing and practicing to show off their skills to the Big Fish's original star. Bobby came to watch the cast put on a few of the musical numbers that they have been working on, while also giving them some advice on the musical and what it means to be performing to their audience.
No, it was really inspiring to see you guys. I mean, one thing that is really special about this show is that every one of Edward's songs or stories has a real purpose, right? So, like, what would you guys say the purpose of telling Will this story is? You know, what is Edward's message in this specific story?
To be his own hero.
Totally. And what does that mean?
Like, I'm trying to think about it. It's like having, instead of like looking up fairy tales, he can create his own type of fairy tale.
Sure. Yeah. And so I ask all these questions because I guess I want to make the point that you're all so important to Edward's stories, right? You populate and become the very important characters in all of the stories. And so the message of the song is applicable to each of you as performers. You know, this is a chance for all of you to be the hero in your own performance of this show. And you and you and you and you are all just as important as Will, and just as important as Edward, and just as important as any of the lead characters, you know? There's another thing that he says in this particular song, which I think is really important. He says, you know, the most important thing about a story is the people you meet along the way, right? And especially after 2 years being isolated, what a gift it is for you guys all to be together in the same room.
Bobby also talked about how the meanings of the songs in Big Fish are applicable to the students and gave them advice on how to embrace the deeper meaning of these songs in order to portray them with heart to their audience.
Totally. So your job is to love, and to love, again, with all of your spirit, the fullness of yourself. And that will, you know, get you where Ms. Hauck wants you to get, which is ending the first act in a big climactic way that will make the audience want to see the rest of the show, want to come back for the second act. So it's a big responsibility.
With all the great advice Bobby gave to the cast and crew of West Bloomfield High School's production of Big Fish, this show will be a must-see for anyone in the greater West Bloomfield area. Make sure to get your tickets and check out Big Fish April 28th through the 30th at West Bloomfield High School. Reporting for The Splash Live, I'm Maddie Muschen. The West Bloomfield High School Spring Musical Big Fish is a must-see, and the students will be putting on the show April 28th through April 30th, so make sure to contact the school to get your tickets and see just how wonderful all those West Bloomfield High School actors and actresses are. Later on, we'll be taking a look at our Person of the Week, who has made an impact in our West Bloomfield School District over his 10 years in the community as superintendent. But before that, we'll be talking with Suzanne Levine, Executive Director for the Greater West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce. All that and more after this short break.
We'll be right back with The Splash Live.
In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important. And now the same is true as we face the flu. Influenza has the potential to infect millions, putting lives and the healthcare system at risk. Fortunately, it's easy to protect yourself. The flu vaccine is safe and effective, and with COVID-19 still spreading, it's essential. To see how you can hit this virus head-on, visit michigan.gov/flu.
Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer. Because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be like happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
And now, back to The Splash Live.
Welcome back to The Splash Live. I'm your host, Maddie Muschen. Joining us now to talk about going back in person to meet and greet and the senior resources in our community is the Executive Director for the Greater West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce, Suzanne Levine. Suzanne, thank you so much for joining us again this morning.
Good morning. Hope you're doing well.
I am. Suzanne, so you have been doing the Cup of Connections for a little bit now. Can you talk a little bit to our audience about going back to in-person meet and greets, especially with networking with businesses in our community?
I think there is an excitement about being in person again because nothing will really replace that one-on-one connection. So I was able to kind of reconstitute our Cup of Connections. Prior to the pandemic, we were meeting at a couple local coffee shops, but I thought, what a great opportunity for our local businesses to host them. And so they're the second Friday of every month from 8 to 9. Today we were at Provision Living of West Bloomfield. And although I'm not ready to be in assisted living, it is really the resources, the facility there, it's gorgeous.
And Suzanne, you do a lot of networking for all the businesses in our community. Could you give some tips to our business owners who are just now starting to get back in person and do some networking with other business professionals, or maybe looking to those younger people trying to get jobs, networking there? Can you give us some tips on what people should do to make a good first impression?
Yes, many years ago, I used to teach a college course, and I always told my students there's no second chance for a first impression. So everyone should dress accordingly, and especially if they're looking at each connection as a possible interview for a job or just an opportunity for someone to connect them to someone that could help them in their business. So basically, just make sure that you bring business cards. Make sure that you're groomed. And I always tell people, especially if they're going to an interview, make sure that you do your due diligence and interview the company and make sure they understand what their mission and vision statement is. There's nothing worse than being called into an interview and having the interviewer say, "What do you like about our company?" And the person going, "Duh." It's like, not knowing anything about the company, but just knowing that they want a job. So it's really important to, do your homework. And when you're going to these cup of connections, I always tell people, if you have a name tag, make sure that you bring business cards. And it was really very successful today. A lot of meaningful connections were made. And so I'm excited that I can actually connect people one-on-one, because we know, especially when it's money and health, those are trust issues. No matter how many flyers you send out or brochures, you're not going to get the same impact as someone getting to know you and saying, "Wow, I would trust putting my parent in this facility. I would trust myself hiring this attorney," or a real estate agent. So those are trust issues, and it's really important to get out in the community whenever there's an opportunity to network, so that people get to see who you are and, hopefully like you.
Suzanne, you had that couple of connections today at Provision Living. Can you talk a little bit about their facility that they have there, and specifically what type of resources that they have for the seniors in our West Bloomfield community?
I was really impressed. They have 1 and 2 bedroom facilities for assisted living, but they have monitors in the room, not ones that are, spying on the people that live there. But if they fall on the ground, there is something that sends an alert out to the nursing staff. They have things in the bed that monitor their body temperature and get to know them, so that if there is something wrong, they can quickly, make sure that the person living there is taken care of. They also have a memory care there, which we know that unfortunately a great deal of our population is going to be needing. So the quality of care seems to be excellent, but the facility is brand new and it's beautiful. They have a movie theater, they have an exercise room, they have all kinds of activities, and they cater to all different types of religious beliefs. So it really is a beautiful facility, and they're always open for tours. And I advise people that before they really decide where to send their parents, we do have a couple agencies in our chamber. One is Care Patrol, where they will take you on tours of these different facilities. There's no charge to do that. They can always visit our website, westbloomfieldchamber.com, or go to our senior resource guide, also on our chamber website.
And Suzanne, for all of the different senior facilities and resources that we have in our community, can you talk a little bit about the expansive community that we have for the seniors in our community, and some of the reasons that people should, if they're looking for a senior facility or a memory care facility, why they should choose West Bloomfield to send their parents or loved ones there?
Well, we have quite a large senior population in West Bloomfield. And so as adapting to that, within the chamber, we created our senior resource group. So not only are these different companies and businesses and organizations cater to different senior needs, but through West Bloomfield Parks and Rec, they also offer free classes for seniors. And I guess technically a senior is anyone 50 and above, which used to sound so old, but suddenly doesn't. So these are great free resources. West Bloomfield Parks and Rec does a great job of catering to that community with all kinds of resources. And they can always, as I say, visit our westbloomfieldchamber.com, go to our senior resource guide and see all the different senior resources, organizations, and find out more about what their seniors, their parents need. We have so many different senior resource places, from Betty Danto, to Town Hall Place, to Provisional Living of West Bloomfield, to American House. I know the Avalon of Commerce in Bloomfield Hills. So they don't necessarily have to stay in West Bloomfield. We have other facilities that cater to this, population, and people should definitely investigate before they place their parent in any facility to see what is right for them.
Suzanne, as we wrap up here, if anyone has any questions either about those senior resources that you guys have at the Chamber of Commerce, or if they have any questions about, those in-person networking events and some tips and tricks, how can they reach out to you or any other member of the Chamber of Commerce to get that information?
Well, the best way is to contact me at the Chamber, wbloomfieldchamber@gmail.com, or call the Chamber office at 248-626-3636. And just as a reminder, even though it's still ways off, June 8th is our free health event, health and wellness, at the West Bloomfield Township offices. So they don't necessarily have to be a vendor. It's open to the public, and there'll be a lot of different organizations and businesses that cater to all different facets of health and wellness. So they can come and get some free swag and spend a couple hours getting to know some of our great businesses that cater to health and wellness.
Suzanne, it's always a pleasure talking to you on Friday morning. Thank you again so much for joining us.
Thank you again for having me.
Once again, I was joined by the Executive Director for the Greater West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce, Suzanne Levine, talking about those in-person events, as well as the great senior resources that we have in our Greater West Bloomfield community. Our person of the week this week is someone who has committed himself to the West Bloomfield School District for over 10 years. Since his hire as a superintendent for the West Bloomfield School District, Dr. Gerald Hill has made an immense impact in each school in the West Bloomfield community. Let's go check out why we named Dr. Hill our person of the week.
Our person of the week this week is someone who has committed himself to providing leadership in the West Bloomfield School District over the past 10 years. Dr. Gerald Hill has been in the education system since he began teaching in 1973, and since then has worked to improve the ways in which students learn in his community. During his time in the West Bloomfield School District, Dr. Hill has supported the community through attending sporting games and events that show his commitment to being active as the superintendent. In November of 2021, Dr. Hill announced his retirement from the superintendent position in the school district, effective at the end of June.
I was reflecting back on 10 years ago when the board selected me as superintendent, and one of the current board members, Dr. Nick Hirsch, asked a question during the interview because they knew I was retiring from Illinois, how long I intended to stay. And I said, well, I'm going to stay as long as I feel I'm effective, as long as the board wants me to stay, as long as I'm challenged by the work, and all of that is still true today. But after 49 years in the business and really 10 fantastic years in West Bloomfield, it's time for me to take another direction. This has been very rewarding for the last 10 years here, and the community, the school board, the teachers, the staff, especially the students, have been so exciting to work with, and I will carry that with me for the rest of my life.
Dr. Hill has impacted the West Bloomfield School District in many positive ways that have elevated the caliber of the students and staff going forward. While working in the WB School District, Dr. Hill worked to create the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, as well as the District Learning Design Team that works to help with innovation and technology-infused class environments. Through his passion for the faculty and students of West Bloomfield, Dr. Hill has cemented himself as an effective leader and great superintendent for the district, which is why we named Dr. Gerald Hill our next person of the week.
Thank you again to Dr. Hill for all of the work that he has done in our community to make sure that our West Bloomfield students and staff have been supported over the past 10 years, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. We're going to take a quick break here on the Splash Live, but when we get back, I'll be talking with Emily Taucher, the owner of Happy Garden Place. So don't go anywhere. I'll be talking with Emily after this break.
We'll be right back with The Splash Live.
This message brought to you by FEMA. Home fires occur most often in winter. Keep anything that can catch fire at least 3 feet from heating equipment. And never use an oven to heat your home. Stay in the kitchen when frying, grilling, or broiling food. Turn space heaters off when you leave the room or go to bed. Make sure all vents are clear of snow and ice to allow carbon monoxide to vent outside. Have your furnace, heating system, and chimneys serviced each year by a qualified professional. Learn more at www.usfa.fema.gov.
Teens a day die from texting and driving. Don't text and drive.
And now, back to The Splash Live.
Welcome back to The Splash Live. I'm your host, Maddie Muschin. Joining us now to talk about her exciting business and ways that you can help your garden during the springtime is Emily Taucher, the owner of Happy Garden Place. Emily, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
So Emily, could you first start off by giving our viewers an overview on Happy Garden Place and some information on what you guys do there?
Absolutely. So the mission of Happy Garden Place is to help others experience the joy that a garden can bring. You know, there's so many health benefits to gardening, just being outside. I mean, the list goes on and on. There are actually studies even showing that it helps with depression. So overall, obviously I'm a little bit biased, but I feel like it's something everyone should be doing. So we offer garden coaching, which is aimed more towards beginners or people who just need a little bit of help in a certain area. And that's kind of like having, your own personal garden educator or education that's tailored to your specific garden and your needs. So I'm kind of like a friend who you go to regularly and you're like, hey, I'm having this problem or I want to do this. We also offer garden design. So that involves a property visit, a custom concept drawing, and then we provide an estimate. So folks can go ahead and do it themselves if they want to kind of, get their hands dirty, or they can choose to have Happy Garden Place install it. And then lastly, we provide maintenance packages. So, anything from harvesting, vegetables or herbs, if people are growing those, just checking for pests and kind of helping with things like that. So that in a nutshell, that's really, the 3 core aspects of our business. And the goal is, like I said, just to really help everyone, or as many people as we possibly can, experience the joys that a garden can bring. And, knowing that time, of course, is, there's not unlimited time for anyone. So some people just, might not have the time, and other people just might not have, the time or the interest, because there is so much information out there. It's like, where do you start? That was one of the challenges that I faced when I was getting started. So we specialize in kitchen gardens. So, vegetables, herbs, pollinator gardens, and cut flower gardens. But we also do, updates on existing garden beds or, add smaller beds here or there. So.
Emily, as we're heading into the springtime in Michigan, it's getting a little bit warmer, a little bit sunnier. Do you have some tips and tricks for beginners that have never ventured into the realm of gardening? If they come to you for garden coaching, what are 1 or 2 tips to get them started with a garden in their house?
Sure. Well, one, I would say just start somewhere and start small. It's easy to want to go huge and do everything at once. And that's great if you have the time or if you have a garden coach. But if you go too big and you don't really have the time, you're more likely to become frustrated because you put time into something and then maybe it's not growing right, but you don't have the time or whatever to fix it. It's just and I think that's what causes some people to get frustrated and give up and say, oh, I have a brown thumb. No, you don't. Everyone has a green thumb. I promise you. I used to think the same thing and I proved myself wrong. People are like, wow, and I'm like, you don't want to know where I started from. So I would say, just go for it. And mistakes and little things are going to happen. Even the most experienced gardener is going to encounter something that doesn't go right from time to time, because we are, after all, dealing with nature, and that can be unpredictable, as we know here in Michigan, especially. So I would say just get started, and nothing is permanent. So try something out. See if it works. Sometimes something that, maybe shouldn't work in sunlight, or shouldn't work in shade, for some reason does in some gardens. So, a lot of it is trial and error. So don't be afraid to try. The other thing I would say is, find something, maybe you're not really into gardening, but you love making homemade salsa. Okay. Start a small salsa garden, throw in some peppers, some cilantro, some parsley, onion, and all of a sudden you saved yourself a trip to the grocery store. You just head out to your patio and, pull the things you need to make a salsa garden. The other thing I would say is, one of the most important things that we always cover is sunlight, water, and soil. So you want to make sure you're getting the proper amount of sunlight each day. You want to make sure your plants are getting enough water, of course. Irrigation systems are surprisingly easy to put in place if you don't want to have to remember to go out and water the garden every day. And then the third thing is soil. Quality soil is key, and it doesn't have to be expensive. There's a great mixture that I use that kind of combines a number of things, and it's much cheaper than, the big bags of quality soil are awesome, don't get me wrong, but there's ways to save money on that. So, and compost is important too. So those are some of the other things, those are some of the key things that I think are easy to, not necessarily the most exciting things to talk about soil, but incredibly important.
Emily, as we wrap up with you today, could you give us some information on how to contact you if someone has questions about garden coaching or that garden design and installation, how they can contact you and visit your website?
Absolutely. My website is www.happygardenplace.com. Email and Facebook, Instagram links are on there, as well as phone number. Also, I can be reached at 248-701-8620, and text or phone calls are fine. I would love to help anyone who is interested explore garden opportunities.
Well, Emily, it was such a pleasure having you on the Splash Live this morning. Thank you so much for talking to us and giving us some background on what you do with the Happy Garden Place.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Maddie.
Once again, I was joined by the owner of Happy Garden Place, Emily Taucher, talking about her business, how you can get into contact with them if you have any questions on the garden coaching, as well as the garden design and installation that they do, and some tips and tricks on how to get started with your own garden at your house. That's going to do it for today's edition of the Splash Live. Thank you again to Suzanne Levine and Emily Taucher for joining us this morning. A special thanks to our Zoom producer, Jared Clark, for coordinating the Zoom and making sure our guests joined us. As always, a huge thank you to Calvin Brown, our board operator and director, for making the show possible each and every morning. And thank you for joining me as we explored all of the people and events in our greater West Bloomfield community. As always, you can make sure to tune in live on Civic Center TV on Comcast Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99 Monday through Friday at 9:30 a.m. to catch up on what's going on in our greater West Bloomfield community. For all of our friends in Orchard Lake, Sylvan Lake, Kego Harbor, and West Bloomfield, I'm Maddie Muschin. Thank you for watching The Splash Live.